What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in. Still at it. They are still at it. Thank you so much, everyone. My name is Will Johnson, and this is The Will Johnson Show. We are talking about LA and the United States of America. Yesterday, we talked about how the Democrats and how the rioting in LA is taking place. And there was a video that I didn't even get an opportunity to play yesterday with Dana Besh. And Dana Besh says that she said, this is not a real riot. What determines a real riot? What makes it a real riot? In this case, the people in California, they're burning vehicles, destroying property, graffiti everywhere. There was a mural of Kobe Bryant and somebody else. I don't know who the other person was, but I'm aware of Kobe Bryant. Well, there was this mural of Kobe Bryant in LA because, he was on the LA Lakers. Well, his daughter Gigi. Yeah. So there was a mural of him and his daughter Gigi. And they put graffiti on top of it, just destroyed it. There's no way on bringing that back because you're putting paint on top of paint at that point. They've destroyed it. So this is what's been happening in the city of LA, in the state of California, basically, that they've been going around and destroying stuff. But according to Dana Besh, this is not a real riot. A real riot was back when Rodney King, that was a real riot. But this is not a real riot, according to her, and even some of the radical lunatic liberals. They're all saying that this is President Trump's fault. And every single day. Now, look, yesterday I was saying that I was kind of anticipating that this might fade out by the end of this week, but I'm going to say that I changed my mind on that. And there's a couple of reasons why I changed my mind on that. I think I changed my mind on it because the radical leftist lunatics have organized to have a whole bunch of people go out and probably vandalize stuff this weekend. This Saturday. But it's not even just this Saturday. These radical leftist lunatics have organized for people to start going out everywhere in the country, starting today. But this is what you see on the screen right here. This is about them going out this weekend, probably going to cause traffic problems. If you have to get to work, you're going to have to take a detour, or you might not even get there. You're going to be late. And if you've already been late at work, they're not going to even allow this to be an excuse for you. Well, maybe you should have left early, where they were out there all day. They're probably going to be out there in the evening. Most of the time when these radical leftist lunatics organize something like this all across the country, you know what they do? They typically go to the capital of every state. But in this case, they're not only going to the capital in every state, they're going to go to cities in every state across the country. They're basically calling for a revolt. They're actually calling for the country to be taken over. What do you call that? I think that's what you call an actual insurrection. They're actually talking about taking over. And they're not even flying American flags. And ever since, and you know what? The thing is, they're flying Palestinian flags. They're flying Mexican flags. And I've seen some other flags out there too. But those are the primarily two that they're flying. So now they're going all across the cities of the United States of America. And they hate America. And this is part of the reason why they're doing this. And they're protesting against the federal government. They're protesting against America because President Trump is telling these people that you are criminals, hardcore criminals. You got to go. But of course, the Democrats don't want that to happen. So what are they doing? They're out here defending the hardcore criminals. Picture this. When President Trump gave the authority, the order to Tom Homan to go out and start gathering up these hardcore criminal illegal aliens and start deporting them out the country, what did the Democrats do? The Democrats ran to support these hardcore criminals. Now, we're not talking about people sitting at Home Depot trying to look for a job for the day. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about people working and doing lawns. No, we're not talking about people doing that. We're not talking about people that were going out picking crops. No, President Trump, Tom Homan, was not even referring to them. He was referring to these people that have been brutally beating up people, robbing people, raping people, even killing people. This is who they were targeting. And this is when the Demoncrats ran to the rescue of the illegal criminals, hardcore criminals, Trey de Agua, MS-13. They ran to their rescue. We all were sitting there watching it. And with that guy Garcia, they deported him to El Salvador. And some of the Demoncrats got on airplanes, left the United States of America for a non-American citizen. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. They went to another country fighting for someone who's not even their constituent. And now they're questioning it, saying that President Trump is causing all of this. And if President Trump would just leave these criminals alone, there wouldn't be any rioting. Let me put this out there too, because this weekend, I truly believe that all of these radical leftist lunatics, they're going to go out and they're going to start rioting this weekend. Because have you ever known for radical liberals to go out anywhere and they see somebody or they hear something that they don't like and they don't become violent? And especially right now, because this is like the summer of love 2.0. It really is. The Demoncrats have been really trying to create this scenario. They've been trying really hard to get this very thing to happen. Because in their minds, during the summer of love, they said, oh, it worked. It worked. We intimidated people not to support the Republican Party. You know, that's not a new tactic by the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party, after the Civil War, the first Civil War, the Democrat Party created this organization called the Klan. And what did the Klan do? The Klan went out there and they were intimidating not only black, but they were intimidating white people that voted for the Republican ticket. So they caused all this chaos to try to influence and scare people from voting Republican. The same tactic, just different uniforms. Still the same party. It's the exact same party. There's never been a switch. And I learned this information just, by picking up a book. And there's just one book. It's like my favorite book. One of my favorite books, because the favorite book is the Holy Bible, of course. But it's like one of my favorite books. And it's called Blacks, Whites, Racist Democrats. Or Whites, Blacks, Racist Democrats. By Reverend Wayne Perryman. And I first got this book and I'm sitting there reading and I'm like, my mind is blown. I got it when I was still living in California. And I learned so much. And I learned that the Republican Party during that time was created so that black people could have representation. The first senators, some of the first senators in the Republican Party were black. But they don't want you to know that information. They want to remove that information from society. They want everyone to believe that the Republican Party has always been racist when it's always been the Democrat Party. And the same tactic that the Democrats did then, they're doing them today. The same thing. That has not changed. Not changed. Let me bring something else to your attention about this weekend, this coming weekend. For the past 6 months, or even before then, when the Democrats were bringing all of the illegals into the United States of America and they stopped bringing them across the border because all the cameras were getting them and Joe Biden was flying them into the country, putting them in hotels, I was saying that the Democrats are importing their army. They're bringing their army into the United States of America. And I call a lot of the people that they brought into the United States of America sleeper cells. Have you ever heard of that expression, that term, sleeper cells? Well, the Democrats, I believe, have sleeper cells in the United States of America, and I believe they're getting to the point to where they're activating them. We see what's happening in LA. Do you think that this is just an accident? If the local state government in California would have just worked with ICE to remove these hardcore criminals, none of this would be happening right now. None of it would be happening. But see, the Democrats, they're fighting for the hardcore criminals and they need them here. Why do they need them here? Y'all tell me why they need them here. You know why they need them here? Because they need the chaos. How many times have I said that? They want the animosity. They love the rioting. They really do. They loved the Summer of Love. Oh my goodness. None of them had any issues. Remember even Kamala Harris doing the Summer of Love. She said, keep going. We'll bail you out. I remember Don Sourpuss Lemon on Communist News Network. He was saying, this is how they use their voice. Same time, they were saying all the destruction behind them, and it's mostly peaceful. And what are these same Demoncrats saying today? Oh, this is mostly peaceful. They haven't learned anything. They're destroying the city. They're destroying property. They're attacking people that have nothing to do with it, just walking by, innocent bystanders, and they get attacked because they might look the wrong way. And this is exactly what the Democrats have been wanting. This is exactly what they've been calling for. So I'm going to tell y'all right now, this coming weekend, if you plan on going out someplace, just be safe. Be mindful of your surroundings. Safety, safety, safety. Be mindful of your surroundings. Because these Democrats, they're calling for the chaos. They're calling for the rioting. Because you just think about this really quick. If President Trump or MAGA Republicans at any point, if they put a website out there telling people, go all around the country and protest against the law. I mean, this is what they're doing. They're telling people to protest against the law in the country. What would they say MAGA Republicans were doing? Oh, my goodness, another insurrection. They're trying to do an insurrection. Another one. Because in this case, unlike J6, which was not an insurrection, people were there for the grievances. And before it all popped off and before Nancy Pelosi, according to some reports, gave the order to shoot tear gas into people singing hymns, which is still mind blowing to me because they don't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear them singing hymns because they were afraid that the prayers might get through. They're calling for all of this right now. Well, listen to Jay Paul. Listen to what she has to say. And if you haven't already, please, could you bless me by hitting the thumbs up? Hit the thumbs up on wherever you're watching this, whatever option you have. Hit the thumbs up, hit the red pill, hit the thumbs up, hit the heart, please, please. And also share the video. Listen to what she says. Now you let me know. She's a representative of Congress. You tell me, is she calling for violence or is she telling people do not hit the streets, do not go out there, be peaceful, be peaceful, be peaceful? Or is she telling people to hit the streets?
And Donald Trump calling out the National Guard unconstitutionally, illegally, without the governor's authorized approval.
Wait a minute. President Trump doesn't have to give Gavin Newsom's approval to bring order to a state that's in total chaos when the governor's not doing his job. Where does it say that President Trump needs to talk to Gavin Newsom before he can do anything? And really, to be honest with you, President Trump, out of courtesy, he already had the conversation with Newsom. And he told Gavin Newsom, get it under order or I will send in troops. And Newsom said, oh, you're gonna tell me to get it in order? So he purposely did not get it in order.
As Jaime said, that's something that has not happened since 1965. And it's hard to imagine that this time the National Guard were sent out to attack protesters
were
exercising their constitutional obligation. Now, I want to say something.
Wait a minute. Destroying property is not exercising your constitutional obligation. That's not constitutional. That's destructive.
To you, it is actually in the interest of all American people to stand up for these rights. They know that dividing us is what will make them strong. And they know that when we are united, nobody can divide us.
She's a total idiot. Every last one of these Democrats should, when they get in front of the camera, they get on a microphone, they should be saying, stop the violence. No violence. No violence. But have you heard any of them say that? Hakeem Joffrey's? He hasn't said it. I don't even know where Nancy Pelosi is. This is her state. Where's she at? Where's Adam Schiff? Oh, Adam Pencilneck Schiff, he actually did a video. And he basically blamed President Trump for all the chaos that's going on in California. These Demoncrats created the situation and they never take responsibility. If you have ICE, the police department, the FBI, ATF, when we finally get a president in the United States of America that's upholding the law and these organizations are actually doing what they're supposed to do, and then you get the Democrats fighting against them, really? They're upholding the law, but the Democrats don't want you to uphold the law. Why do you think that the Democrats were so happy to have so many illegals coming to the United States of America violating the laws of this country? But all of them are fighting for them. Every last one of them fighting for them. Every last one of them fighting for the criminals. They're not fighting for the American people. I'm so sick of it. I really am. I don't understand how a single Democrat can win a single election in this country. But there's a lot of people out there that's hoo-hoo, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Because they're so bitter and they're suffering from TDS.
Well, and I just want to say that you saw Jaya Paul out there.
Yes.
She was among many people that were protesting the arrest of this man right here. His name is David Huerta. And he's been since released, but he was arrested by ICE. He's the one that yesterday we showed Maxine Waters walk up to the door and demand to know where he was. This is the guy. He was a head of the janitors union in California. He's well known as an activist. And he was arrested for, it says on here, for impeding the actions of ICE agents. That's what he was arrested for. He has since been released, but they did this whole rally for him. This guy makes a lot of money. He makes a lot of money for the union. They are a huge contributor to the Democrat Party. I think it says like the last campaign they did like $35 million or something like that. So of course it's wherever money is involved, the Democrats are right there.
So that's the only reason why they're fighting for him.
Well, I mean,
obvious.
It's no coincidence, right?
It's obvious
that he's well known by the Democrats because his union has donated so much money to them.
Interesting.
Well, I also want to say, did you know that one of the GOPs in California wants the Congress to call for an investigation? They're saying that it took LAPD 2 hours to respond to the call for ICE agents needing help.
2 hours.
2 hours. Now,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Why is the local media news not talking about that? Why haven't CNN talked about that or MSDNC? 2 hours. So it's no wonder that President Trump sent in troops. Yeah, there's no wonder because we already know that they've already told the local police department not to help ICE, not to help federal agents. They've already told them not to help them. And the police chief in California said, look, we got the order that we can't even help them. So we have to, if they're in trouble, we can't do anything. 2 hours.
Well, I mean, they're not allowed to
assist them. They're not allowed to assist them. Yeah.
To detain
and detaining illegals. Hardcore criminals in the country.
Or notifying ICE that they have them.
Pretty wild. Pretty wild. And you know what makes me think about it? It's like the state of California. They are supposed to, especially when it comes to ICE doing their jobs, because it doesn't stop at the border of California, right? Let's say you're traveling from Texas, Arizona, Nevada, and then you get to California. ICE doesn't stop at the border. California is still part of the United States of America. It really is. A lot of people are like, well, maybe we should just let it go. I say no to that. I say that we say no to that, and we remove these corrupt criminal politicians. And you know what? This really quick, Shannon. You know Gavin Newsom. You know how he's calling on President Trump and Tom Homan to arrest him. You know why he's doing that? He wants to be a martyr. This is what he wants. He wants them to arrest him so he can be a martyr to the Demoncrats. That's the only reason why he's doing it. Well, listen to this, because the Demoncrats, they won't even acknowledge that ICE has the authority to go in any state in the union and apprehend these hardcore criminals. Watch this. This is on the Communist News Network.
Brad, what are you thinking?
Well, we got to this moment because California has a sanctuary policy. The state law forbids local law enforcement from cooperating with, or local government from cooperating with immigration enforcement. We have immigration laws that govern the entire land, and California is willfully ignoring them. California's left-wing politicians set this up. If California had long been cooperating and helping enforce immigration laws all along the way, this would not be.
It's not the whole state. You do know that some of this is jurisdictions. There are certain towns that do. Yeah, but there are certain towns that absolutely have cooperated with federal authorities.
Shouldn't they all?
You know, this is part of the issue that is always interesting here. Is
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You hear this? You hear this? I got to take it back. I got to take it back again. Hear it just like a typical female liberal. And then he brings up some factual, shouldn't they all? Right? She's trying to say, well, you know, there are some cities in California that will adhere to the law. Not all of them go against it. And he goes, shouldn't all of them? And you can just hear it in her voice. She's like, oh, snap. You're not supposed to do that on here. We're supposed to lie to the people and you're supposed to play along. This is like the lie game. Watch. I can't play it, Shane. Can you play this for me?
Jurisdictions, there are certain towns that do. Yeah, but there are certain towns that absolutely have cooperated with federal authorities.
Shouldn't they all?
You know, this is part of the issue that is always interesting here. Is when Republicans want to talk about states' rights, it's about states' rights when it is something that they're interested in, and not when it is something that perhaps Democrats and their states are interested in. And so I think...
But we've all agreed on what immigration laws are.
Well, there's not a state
We're going to talk about this more in the hour. I want to
bring... And they're going to shut him down, shut him down, shut him down. Okay, so I'm just being told that President Trump is currently live right now. Okay, so we're going to go to that. We're going to go to President Trump currently live right now. And is he talking about FEMA? Is that correct? Okay, so we're going to go to President Trump live right now.
And they call me. They don't even know how it's possible that we can have the fires that we have. And the people behind me know that very well. And we're going to start working on that system. And we're going to save a lot of trees. We're also going to cut down trees and replant new trees. And that whole industry is going to be growing because we don't need the help of anybody. We have just about more, or as much, but more than almost anybody else in terms of lumber and wood. So we're going to be doing some great work having to do with forest fires. It's going to start effective. Really, it started a few months ago. And it's forest management. And Doug, I think you're really the head of that. Interiors, I guess you're the largest landlord perhaps anywhere in the world. I understand. That's a nice position. You may want to just give a few words on the cleaning of the floor of the forests.
Well, happy to do that. And of course, as President Trump had said, yes, between Interior and Forest Service, just part of USDA, 700 million acres of surface area, much of that is in forest land. That is a tremendous resource. It's part of America's balance sheet. When we let it burn, then we actually have to spend money coming through FEMA and other places. So we spend taxpayer dollars cleaning up a mess that could have been prevented. Under President Trump, when we get back into the timber business, which up to 30 years ago, we were one of the great timber producers in the world. The communities thrived in these rural communities. We had lumber mills. We had manufacturing. We had furniture makers in this country. All of that went away when we stopped harvesting our own timber. And today we import about as much timber as we used to harvest ourselves. If we can get back in the timber business, that can help on the balance of trade, reduce imports from foreign countries, and have American jobs. But to make that all happen, again, under President Trump's leadership, we have to get back in the timber business and get back in the game. And when we do that, we have to make sure that we're doing prevention, not just fighting fires after they all get out of control. And so, again, working with OMB and others to make sure that we've got the budget for doing the prevention work and the forest management upfront reduces the expense and the cost on the back end of fighting these massive fires. But again, coordinating across all of our 5 different major firefighting groups today, it's like having 5 generals in the field. They may have different strategies and different tactics. They even had different pay levels. Brooke and I are working to make sure that regardless of which service and branch that you're in, that you're going to have a similar pay, that we're going to have everybody equipped with the right technology to protect them when they're out in the field. Just basic stuff that they don't have today that we were giving our military 20 years ago in terms of, and then using technology to be able to identify fires when they first start. I mean, with infrared, satellite, drones, I mean, there's technology where we can pick out a fire when it just barely begins and it costs us nothing to put it out versus when it scales up and becomes these massive fires that endanger communities, lives, and our firefighters. So President Trump, of course, has got a common sense strategy. He's empowering all of the leadership that's standing up here today for us to go get this job done. It's going to get America back in the timber business. We're going to put out fires when they're small as opposed to when we can't control them when they're large. And we're going to have revenue coming into the federal government from those timber sales as opposed to in those timber leases to the private companies as opposed to revenue going out through FEMA after the fact when we're cleaning up a mess. So the whole thing makes complete sense. And Brooke and I and Christy and Russ, we're all excited to go out and implement the president's vision.
And we have some of the best timber anywhere in the world, and we don't use it. We've freed it up. Lee Zeldin's done an incredible job in that regard from environmental restrictions that are ridiculous. And a lot of it's been freed up. The rest of it's being freed up. Some areas will continue to protect, but we're going to be freeing up most of it. And again, we have some of the best in the world. And when I hear you say that we lost more in fires than we produce is so crazy because we shouldn't lose very much at all. I could say we shouldn't lose any if it was perfect, but it should not be ever like what we've seen. We're sending billions of dollars to California all the time because obviously in California they are not doing a good job in any way, shape, or form, any other thing either. So with that, I'm heading to Fort Bragg right now. I think the helicopter's landing as we speak. But if you want, we'll take a few questions.
Mr. President, will you invoke the Insurrection Act to deal with the situation in California?
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We'll see. But I can tell you last night was terrible. The night before that was terrible. We have, as you've seen, it was on most of your networks, people with big, heavy hammers pounding the concrete and pounding curbs, pounding it, breaking up and handing these big chunks of concrete to people. And they were taking that concrete, going up on bridges and dropping it into the roof of a car. They were throwing it at our police. They were throwing it at our soldiers that are there. And we got it stopped, and we have them in custody right now. Look, if we didn't get involved, right now, Los Angeles would be burning, just like it was burning a number of months ago with all the houses that were lost. Los Angeles right now would be on fire, and we have it in great shape. and not playing around.
How will you determine whether or not there is an insurrection?
Well, you'll take a look at what's happening. I mean, I could tell you there were certain areas of Los Angeles that you could have called it an insurrection. It was terrible. But these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They get money. And when you take a look at what they do, where they show up and everyone's saying, what's he doing? He's pounding the curbs. This one guy's pounding the curb, breaking the curb and handing big pieces of granite. In some cases, it's granite and concrete to other people. And they're running out with it. And then we watch the other people and they try and throw it into the face of the soldiers, throw it into the face of the police, and they hurt some people very badly. They go up on bridges, they drop it down on the cars as the cars are moving. They're not breaking the curb because they're doing a demolition service. They're breaking it to hand out to people as a weapon. It's bad stuff. I've never seen that before.
Mr. President, how soon do you want to see FEMA eliminated? And what's your message to the governors about how much more an expense going to fall to states?
Yeah, well, it's not going to be so much the states. We're going to give out less money. We're going to give it out directly. It'll be from the president's office. We'll have somebody here. Could be Homeland Security, but we're going to give it out through a method where it's given out. As an example, I just gave out $71 million to a certain state. They were looking to do about 120. They were very happy with the 71 million. We did a little cutting, and they were very happy with it. So we're going to do it much differently. We think after this, Christy, I'd say after the hurricane season, we'll start phasing it out.
Yes, sir. We've set up a FEMA council over the next couple of months. We'll be working on reforms and what FEMA will look like in the future as a different agency, as under the Department of Homeland Security to the president's vision. And it will empower governors to go out and respond to emergency situations. And that what the president does best is to make sure that the taxpayers are only fulfilling the need to which is appropriate, and that people are responsible to respond to their own people closest to home. So
if a certain state, as an example, gets hit by a hurricane or tornado, that's what a governor should be able to handle it. And frankly, if they can handle it, the aftermath, then maybe they shouldn't be governor.
And Mr. President, when is the last time you spoke with Governor Newsom?
A day ago. Called him up to tell him, got to do a better job. He's doing a bad job, causing a lot of death and a lot of potential death. If we didn't send out the National Guard, and last time we gave him a little additional help, you would have Los Angeles would be burning right now. Los Angeles would be not a lot different than what you saw take place in California and Los Angeles just a little while ago. And, you got to remember, we have the Olympics coming. And we don't want people looking at Los Angeles like it would have been. It would have been bad. Last night, they had total control. We didn't have the military in there, the National Guard, and then we also sent in some Marines. We had some bad people. We have people, they look in your face and they spit right in your face. They're animals. And these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They're agitators. They're paid. You think somebody walks up to a curb and starts hammering pieces out, has all the equipment necessary, and starts handing it out to people to use as a weapon? These are paid insurrectionists or agitators or troublemakers. You can call it whatever you want. And we ended it, and we have in custody some very bad people.
Mr. President.
Did you see the guy throwing the rocks at the police cars as they went by and crushing their windows and endangering our police? We're not going to let that happen, yeah.
Pardon me, Mr. President, on those Marines, Governor Newsom has described them as political pawns. I'm curious for your reaction to that and what you see as the Marines' role and what are their rules of engagement?
All I want is safety. I just want a safe area. Los Angeles was under siege until we got there. The police were unable to handle it. You could speak to the chief. He said it on television 3 nights ago. He said, this is more than we can handle. They said that. And the LA police, I know a lot of the police in LA, they're great people, but they're given instructions not to do this, not to do that. But in this case, they were trying their best. They were not able to handle it. It was out of control. When we got there, and you have to remember, I've been here before, and I went right by every rule, and I waited for governors to say, send in the National Guard. They wouldn't do it. And they just wouldn't do it. It kept going on and on. got worse and worse. And in Minneapolis, that city was burning down 7 days. And I said, I don't care. The governor, who's a governor that just happened to be running for vice president, a total, you talk about an incompetent governor, he's an incompetent person. That he was picked, well, I was actually very happy he was picked for other reasons. But this guy wouldn't call the National Guard. And we ultimately just sent in the National Guard. We stopped it. But that was after 7 days. And I said to myself, if that stuff happens again, we've got to make faster decisions because they don't want to do it. The radical left, it's usually radical left, and it's usually governors that are Democrat, and they don't want to call them in. They don't want to save lives. They don't want to save property. They don't want to call them in. I don't know what it is. We sent them in, not early, we sent them in late as far as I'm concerned. But big problems, as you know, 3 nights ago, big problems were ensuing. If we didn't send in the National Guard quickly, right now, Los Angeles would be burning to the ground.
The Marines is, a lot of people think, an escalatory step, though. These are guys who fight wars. Are you at all concerned that things could get out of hand with Marines
when I see people
American City?
Throwing concrete into cars, when I see people, the kind of people that I saw on your network doing danger to the police and to the military and to the National Guard, no, it's okay. You know, you start running out of people. When you have 2,000 people from a National Guard standpoint, we have a very big military. But the National Guard, they needed a little extra help. And we sent them a little, and we did a great job last night. We had, well, you got a lot of cars go up in smoke and flame and a lot of bad scenes, but it was pretty minor by comparison. This morning, it's very calm. See what happens later. But they know if they go there, they're not going to get anywhere because we have the National Guard there. We backed it up with a number of Marines, yeah.
Mr. President, do you agree with Governor Abbott soon signing legislation to mandate 10 commandments in school classrooms?
Having to do with what?
Governor Abbott is soon going to sign legislation to mandate displays of the 10 commandments in classrooms.
I have to take a look at it. I'm going to have to look at it.
Will the National Guard be in California indefinitely? How long will they be there until you think?
Until there's no danger. It's easy. Look, it's common sense. You ask me that question. When there's no danger, they'll leave. You would have had a horrible situation had I not sent them in. Horrible. You'd be reporting on a lot of death and a lot of destruction that's not going to take place. I think if you look, every night it got less and less. They were met with very strong force, the bad people, the bad, sick people that do what they do. But these are paid people in many cases, not in all cases, but in many cases. And they really are. They're agitators.
I was wondering if you had any response to Mexican President Sheinbaum, who condemned the violence there. Have you been in touch with her at all?
Said what?
I was wondering if you had any response to what Mexican President Claudine Sheinbaum said in response.
What'd she say?
She condemned the violence in L.A.
I do too.
Have you been in touch with her at all?
Well, you think I don't condemn it? I condemn the violence in L.A., ladies and gentlemen, but I also stopped the violence in L.A. And by doing what I did, I stopped the violence in L.A. That would have been, I think, maybe I'd ask Christie to speak to that. That would have been an unbelievable tragedy. We would be talking, I don't know that would even be here right now. It would have been so bad. I'd probably maybe be out there. I don't know, but Christie, could you speak to that?
Absolutely. So in 2020, I was a governor of a neighboring state to Tim Walz and watched him let his city burn. And the president and I have talked about this in the past, and he was not going to let that happen to another city and to another community where a bad governor made a bad decision. So Claudia Sheinbaum came out and encouraged more protests in LA, and I condemn her for that. She should not be encouraging violent protests that are going on. If people are allowed to peacefully protest, but the violence that we're seeing is not acceptable, and it's not going to happen in America. This president is standing up for the average American who wants to walk their child to school every day safely, run their small business, and provide for their families. That's the action that he's taking. He has every authority under the Constitution to send these National Guard under Title X into these communities and make sure that operations go smoothly, that law enforcement officers are protected, that they can continue to do their work without fear of being injured or killed or disrespected, and that they can go home to their families at night. So I'm incredibly proud of the president for activating the National Guard and for sending in these Marines, because these Marines are specifically trained to meet the need that we have on the ground in LA right now. And Governor Newsom has done a disservice to the state of California for many years. The people there should never elect him into a leadership position ever again. He clearly
the governor's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. When it
guy.
comes to his railroad that he's building, where it's like 30 times over budget, nobody's ever seen anything like it. Now it doesn't even go to San Francisco and LA. It's way short of it. After years of work and overruns like nobody's, those contractors are some of the wealthiest people in the world. I guarantee you that, because that money goes to those contractors. They just did a number on the wallet of the people of California. That train, you should look at that train. That is the greatest. I've never seen cost overruns. I've seen cost overruns and great incompetence over my life. I've never seen anything like that.
Mr. President, these protests obviously started in reaction to these large-scale ICE operations in Los Angeles. Should people expect to see similar operations in the rest of the country? Yeah. And will similar protests see similar response?
As you know, we're moving murderers out of our country that were put here by Biden or the auto pen. The auto pen really did it. The people, whether it's Lisa Monaco or whoever operated the auto pen, these are criminals. The people are criminals that allowed these criminals into our country. And I don't think that Biden knew what the hell he was doing. I don't think he even knew about it. But when they opened up our borders for the whole world to come in, we're going to get them out. We're getting them out. We're starting to get acknowledgement from the courts that, there's a system. They come in without courts and they go out, they want trials and everything else. I think that's starting to work out now. Judges are starting to see what a terrible situation it is. Many of those people that you saw on television last night are criminals that were allowed into our country by Biden. And they want to stay. And we don't want them. And they come from jails and they come from mental institutions and they come from all over the world, not just South America. And we're not going to let them stay. And this is the first, perhaps, of many, or perhaps, if we didn't attack this one very strongly, you'd have them all over the country. But I can inform the rest of the country that when they do it, if they do it, they're going to be met with equal or greater force than we met right here. We did a great job. The people, you, Christy, and Tom Holman, and all of the people, Pete Hegseth, all of the people involved did an amazing job. We stopped a disaster. And it looks like a planned disaster, this didn't just happen. They had weapons, they had tools, they had everything you needed. They were throwing iced water in bottles, in glass bottles, at officers and at soldiers. These are, you could not use the word insurrection, but you could also use the word, these are very dangerous people. They're bad people. They were met with heavy force and they folded. And they may be there a little bit tonight. They may be there a little bit, but it seems to be getting less and less because they're going there and they're met with a very heavy force. And if they weren't, you would have that city right now would be on fire. It would be burning down. The rest of it, what's left over, because the other fire was started because they wouldn't allow water into LA. They wouldn't allow water into California because they had it all shifted out to the Pacific Ocean. And I turned it around and told them to do it in my first term, and they didn't do it. We had COVID, and they didn't do it. And I told them to do it. We did it in the second. Now we have billions of gallons of water flowing down. But Newsom should have done this. He's an incompetent man, an incompetent governor. Okay, any other questions?
Mr. President, any message to adversaries as the Army kicks off 250-year birthday?
I just think it's amazing. We're going to have a fantastic June 14th parade, Flag Day. It's going to be an amazing day. We have tanks, we have planes, we have all sorts of things. And I think it's going to be great. We're going to celebrate our country for a change. Recently, as you know, with World War II, the victory of World War II, I called up France and they were celebrating the victory. Well, we helped them a lot, as you know. I don't have to get into that. But I called up other countries. They were all celebrating the victory. We're the only country that didn't celebrate the victory. And we're the one that won the war. Okay, if it wasn't for us, that war, you would be speaking German right now, okay? We won the war, and you might be speaking Japanese too. I mean, you might be speaking a combination of both. We won the war, and we're the only country that didn't celebrate it. And we're going to be celebrating big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protester wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but, you know, this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, press. Let's move out. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, there's President Trump addressing the issues in California. You know what? President Trump is 100% correct, Shannon, that had he not sent in the troops to stop the violence, you can get it off the screen there, to stop the violence, that it would have been a lot worse in California right now. It would have been a lot worse in California. The city would be on fire more so than it already is. But President Trump went into California to stop it. And this is what they're upset about. They're not upset that California is on fire, the Demoncrats. They're upset because President Trump sent in troops to stop them. And it's just like the Summer of Love, when you had Tampon Tim, and him and his wife riding around. She rolled down the windows, and she says she loves the smell of burnt tires. You remember that? She said she loved the smell of burnt tires, meaning the city was on fire. The city was burning, and a whole bunch of tires from the vehicles were burning, and she loved the smell. Tim Walz did nothing. They tried to send in the National Guard, and they said, nope, no National Guard. We want the city to burn. I went there after the aftermath, and it was total destruction. Looked like a war zone. Looked like a straight up war zone. The building destroyed. I remember this AutoZone, or maybe it was a Napa. Doesn't matter. It was an audio hardware store, and it was just devastated, burnt to the ground. And not only that, other locations, and even there was this black lady. She had a barber shop or a beauty salon, and they destroyed that as well. They destroyed it. Myself and my buddy Ben Burkhorn, we went there and we actually interviewed her. And then after we interviewed her, Mike Pence actually went and saw her and talked to her. I don't know if maybe he saw our video on it, but the Demoncrats, they don't care who they destroy when it comes to all of this. They just want to destroy everything and then turn around and blame President Trump. Turn around and blame President Trump for all of the destruction that they have done. Now, listen to this one. Here's Abby, of course, on the Communist News Network. And we're talking about all the rioting and everything. And in their minds, they don't see the rioters. They don't see the hardcore criminals as criminals. The only people they see as criminals are ICE members, the police department. That's who they see the criminals. That's who they're saying the criminals are. American citizens.
Truthfully, I'm not sure what she means by that. I mean, is she saying people in Los Angeles are criminals? All the immigrants are criminals? Like, what is she talking about?
I think she thinks that people that break into this country, and there are millions of them in California, that are here illegally, are criminals.
Illegal border crosses are at a historic low right now. It has not been this low since the 1960s. Because Donald Trump was elected. But this is why this is only a political. That is exactly why this is a political stunt. This is a political stunt because the illegal border crossings are not happening. I am saying they are at incredibly low levels.
So de-escalate, you would not trash the mayor, regardless of their party.
They don't know de-escalation.
If you were trying to de-escalate,
they don't know de-escalation.
Did you read it? The mayor's statement.
This is not tit
the
for
mayor's
tat.
statement. Hold on.
Hold on, Christine. What are you saying? Hold on, Christine. What are you saying about the mayor's statement?
Let's go back to what started all this. ICE went in to find the worst criminals that they were arresting that were accused of
they went
raping.
To a Home Depot,
let me finish.
That's actually literally what precipitated
let me at least finish the list, okay? Because I know you guys don't like the list, but it's.
I just want to make sure that you're not making general statements.
I'm not. I've got their names. Do you want all of their names and stories?
Hold on just a second.
Jesus Hernandez, 26, a Mexican national, was convicted of transporting a legal migrant into New Mexico. And then what did he do? He robbed some people. No big deal. I mean, I've got a whole list.
What precipitated these protests? What happened on Friday?
I go back.
It was a raid that occurred
by Marxist groups and the Democrat Party.
So, are you hearing this? See, this is how they do everything. What started this protest? What started the protest? What started the protest? You know what? You know what started the protest? The Democrats, when they were allowing the illegals to come into the country. That's what started it. If they would have never done it in the first place, we wouldn't be in this situation right now trying to prevent these hardcore criminals from terrorizing the American people. Why is it so difficult to understand? I don't understand. I don't understand. Why is it so difficult for them to understand? That's the part I don't understand. Do you understand? Because I don't understand. She's on here saying that, if they would have never done this raid, then none of this would have taken place. Everything would have been kosher. Nothing would have been out of the ordinary. Everything would have been just fine. Hunky-dory. Basically, allow them to be in the country. Allow them to destroy whatever it is they want to destroy. Don't send in troops to prevent us from destroying the city. The very fact that we're even talking about this nonsense like this, something is truly wrong with our society. I've been saying that quite often here lately. Do you understand what I mean when I say that? Something is truly wrong with our society because you have a group of leftists, a group of people that's actually advocating for hardcore criminals, for people that's doing wrong things. What is wrong with them? What happened? Is there something off up here? Yeah. There absolutely is something wrong with them. Listen to this. Here's the mayor, Mayor Bass. Total nut job. She's saying that this wasn't about drugs. These were about, them being at Home Depot. I don't care if they were in front of Lowe's. And the reason why ICE is picking them up, because they've been committing crimes. Straight up.
Why were there raids? We have been told that he was going to go after violent criminals. It wasn't a drug den. It was a Home Depot. It was places where people are working. So what was the point of doing this? And then knowing that in a city like Los Angeles, and we had talked about this for a long time, that has a very sophisticated long-term immigrant rights organizations and institutions, that if these random raids were going to happen, then there was going to be the danger of a backlash. And you add on to that the National Guard, and it felt like fuel for a fire that was unnecessary.
Random raids? Talked about this yesterday. So what they're wanting Tom Homan and ICE to tell them where they're going to raid next. And it's not so they can go in there in the system, because they've already told the local police department in California that you cannot assist ICE in detaining these hardcore criminals. You can't do it. So why do they want to know? Why are they so upset about these random raids? They want to know about them so then they can tip them off. That's the reason why they want to know. And they're upset because now they're just picking spots, picking locations that the Demoncrats are not on the up and up about, and are getting these criminals off the streets of America. Just like you just heard President Trump said, we want to get the criminals out of the country. And who's upset about that? Something is truly wrong with our society. You know what it's really called? It's called a reprobate mind. I play these videos with these Demoncrats, and they straight up they're justifying the criminal activity. And anyone who's against the criminal activity, there's something wrong with you, according to the left. They should be siding with President Trump. Again, something is wrong with our society. Do you hear? I mean, look, I'm like really trying to, am I relaying this at all? Am I getting it out? Do you see it too? I know I can't be the only one. Do you see it too? That's why I'm constantly saying this is a spiritual battle, because that's the only explanation I can give. The reason why these people would want to go to another country and bring back a not even American citizen. They're fighting for non-American citizen. This is it has to be a spiritual battle, because you have these people fighting for people that actually harmed, raped, murdered, drugs, everything you can think of under the sun that is evil and wrong. These Democrats are fighting for them. And I used to get people sending me messages all the time. Will, why you call them Demoncrats? I wish you would stop calling them Demoncrats. They don't do it anymore. They don't do it anymore. You're picking a side. Let me give you an example of one of the leader Demoncrats. And this reporter is talking to him because he's doing a press conference, and they're asking him about what's going on in California. And instead of him answering the question, he goes all the way left.
Thank you. So the Department of Homeland Security released some information about some of the individuals that were apprehended during ICE's raid in LA over the weekend. And some of those people were previously convicted of murder and sexual battery and cruelty to children, amongst many other crimes. You say that if they wanted to go after violent people, that's something you could agree on. So do you support ICE detaining illegal immigrants that have criminal histories and backgrounds?
See, that's what it's all about. They're going after these people that got all these horrible criminal backgrounds. That's who they're going for. And his response should be, look, we want to get these people off the streets of America. People should be able to live their lives in the country and feel safe. No one should have to being concerned about their child being abducted, their child getting fentanyl, their child being brutally assaulted by these people. This should not be happening. And he also should be saying that we're going to do everything we can to help President Trump make sure we get actual criminals. That should be the response. Well, listen to what he says, because she just brought up they went out there this past weekend and they were arresting not just random people on the streets of America. They were actually arresting criminals. What do you think he's going to say?
The Department of Homeland Security, under the leadership of the so-called Secretary Kristi Noem, is a complete and total embarrassment. And so anything that they put out should be scrutinized through that lens.
Nonetheless, is that something that you would agree with?
I've made my statement on this issue, and we've been very clear that the deportation efforts of any administration should be focused on making communities safe and deporting violent criminals who are undocumented.
Did she just ask him that? She just asked him that very thing, and he went off in his tantrum about Kristi Noem, because Kristi Noem and President Trump's administration is actually getting these hardcore criminals. But see, they don't want you to know that they're actually getting the criminals. They want you to believe that they're just randomly picking American citizens off the streets of America and deporting them. They're just going after innocent children that are American citizens and deporting these children. They're not telling you that the parents are here illegally and that the parents are saying, no, I want my child to go with me because you're deporting me. They conveniently leave that detail out.
And I'm so sick of them literally saying that Kristi Noem is incompetent. He's saying you need to question everything she says. If she says they're violent, you need to question that it's violent. And let's be honest, they don't want to acknowledge that any of these people are violent people.
No,
they don't want to. Out of all of these raids, literally Homan and them have listed off terrorists that they've sent back, murderers, rapists, sex traffickers, they've listed all of them, and they go, well, we don't believe you. Can you prove it?
Yeah.
I mean, what?
I mean, they were calling this dude the Maryland Man. Like it's a good thing, the Maryland Man. It's wild. Hey, everybody. Get ready for this weekend. Be mindful. Be safe. The Demoncrats, I believe, at some point, if maybe this is the weekend, I don't know. I still believe that they have sleeper cells in this country. And I believe that they're about to activate them if they haven't already activated them.
Well, Will, there's actually a video of the leader of Al-Qaeda. There's a video going around where they're saying, Simon Atiba, many reporters have shared it.
Saying they go after President Trump and J.D. Vance and
He's
Elon
calling the
Musk.
Muslims here in America to do this.
Yeah, to go after them. So I believe, again, that they are activating the sleeper cells that they have brought into the country. This is just my personal opinion. I don't have no tangible proof of it. It's just my personal opinion. That's why I'm telling everybody, be safe. Don't see, the whole point of this too is intimidate you so you will cower down in your homes and not go out, and so that they can take control. This is what they want. This is what they want. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in my show on culture wars. I'm going to go in a little more detail on that, just a little bit more. If you go to my website, uniteamericafirst.com, you can see the 3 squares right there. One of them say culture wars. You can see the one that I'm on right now, Ex-American News. But you can see one of them says culture wars. That's an hour from now. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, and I'm going to show some more stuff that is just really. So make sure you go there. It's at 1 o'clock Central. 1 o'clock Central. You'll be able to check it out. Put a mobile alert on your phone. Put a mobile alert on your phone for this one, which is at 11 o'clock Central, and the next one is at 1 o'clock Central. All right. But hey, also, if you still want to help me, please go to uniteamericafirst.com/donate. Right there, there's different options. You can support me monthly if you so choose to, if God puts it on your heart. Or if you just want to help me out one time, you can scroll down just a little bit there, and you can see the different options. You can go, can you scroll down for me a little bit? There you go, right there. You can see the different options right there for you. Or if you want to send me a physical letter, a physical blessing, right there is my physical address. All right, everybody, that's it for me. uniteamericafirst.com/donate. Again, be safe. Be safe.